Alright, today we're going to do a review on a Dremel that I picked up from Harbor Freight for about $10. So, in this review we're going to cover the pros and cons of this particular Dremel, and I'm going to give you a little demonstration at the end to show you actually how it performs. Let's start off with some of the pros. Some of the pros, or the first one, is it's only $10. And let's face it, some of us spend more than that on fast food. So for $10, I figured, how could I go wrong? Now, when I picked this particular Dremel up, I believe it was on sale at Harbor Freight. So I'm not sure if they're still selling them for $10. But if they are, definitely go out and grab one if you're in the market for a cheap little handy Dremel tool. This is not a top of the line Dremel. This is not a Dremel. It's not going to hold up to, say, Black & Decker or a Cobalt Dremel. I have a Cobalt one that I absolutely love, and this would not even hold weight to the Cobalt one. I was just in the Harbor Freight walking around. I wanted to spend a little money, and I saw it, and I figured, why not give it a shot? Some of the bigger Dremels are a little heavy. They have a lot of vibration, and if you ever use one of the bigger ones, you know what I'm talking about. This is a Dremel that's more for a hobbyist. If you're someone who is going to do a lot of woodworking, a lot of carpentry, things like that, this is definitely not the Dremel for you. This is for somebody who's going to do little odds and ends around the house, a little cleaning up maybe of some rust on a little particular spot, or somebody who is a hobbyist, somebody who, on their free time, this is what they want to, do, is do a little woodworking, a little carving, a little engraving. Let's first start off by talking about the particular tool itself. It has 16,000 RPMs, and it is a 12 volt. Another positive and another plus about this particular tool is that it actually has, one thing I really enjoyed about it was that it has, if you look over here at the cord, it has this piece right here unplugs from the end of the Dremel, and you can actually use a different adapter into the wall, and I believe it will increase your power, which is another good thing. This is an 80-piece set, so it comes with 80 little different assortments and attachments, some couple of collets. It comes with a couple little drills, some wire brushes you can use to clean up. It comes with some sandpaper on a drum type system. Comes with some cutoff wheels, and it comes with a little bit of stones right here that you can use to do a little bit of polishing and things like that on some of your finer metals or things like that. Also, it comes with these little attachments right here, and I'm not sure the name of what these attachments are actually called, but to me they're more like an end mill, and that's what I kind of use them for. And I know they're not end mills. That's not what they are, but it's kind of like a little end mill that you can use to polish up a piece of metal that maybe have rust on it or maybe some corrosion or whatnot. Another thing that I like about this piece of equipment is that it's very lightweight. If you are somebody who has wrist problems, somebody who doesn't want to, hold it for a long period of time, or who needs to hold it for a long period of time rather, and you don't want all the vibrations, in your wrist, hurting your wrist. You don't want something that's really heavy. This is perfect. I tell you right now, I use the Cobalt one that I have, and it can get pretty heavy sometimes. The vibrations after you use it for 30-40 minutes, it's you're ready to put it down. And if you ever use one, you know what I'm talking about. But this one being very lightweight, very small, the vibrations are not that strong. I'm gonna turn it on real quick to give you a little demonstration. You can see I'm holding it in my hand, and it's not, it's not moving, it's not vibrating. It's a very good product. Another thing I like about it is that for $10, it's put together fairly well. It could be some room for improvement. Don't get me wrong, but like I said, I'm gonna be kind on my reviews because you have to understand that it's $10. This is not gonna hold up to a Black & Decker Dremel. This is not gonna hold to a $180, $200 Dremel from Black & Decker. This is, they're not even in the same ballpark. One of the things that I noticed about this particular Dremel that I did not care for was this particular cap right here. It goes on the bottom right here, and it's supposed to screw on. See if I can get this on one hand. There you go. And when I was using it, the vibrations actually rotated it off, and it fell off onto the spindle, and it actually went down the shaft, and it actually knocked it loose. And if you notice, it's not threaded. It's only just a little notch right here that you slide it down, and then you just twist it to the left, and that's supposed to keep it on. And I thought that was kind of funny when it fell off on me, and I looked at it, and I was like, I couldn't believe that was their system for holding it on, but it only happened once, so I guess it works all right, I guess. Another thing that I will say that I didn't really care for was that it didn't come with a wrench. You know, you have your collets that are right here. I'm going to set this collet up. You have your collet, and you're supposed to slide your shaft of your tool into your collet and tighten it down. This is your lock. So you press this button down, and you're just going to lock the spindle right here so that it doesn't rotate. You're supposed to tighten this down, and when you tighten it down, it's going to tighten down onto this collet. So it's going to tighten the shaft, or actually it's going to tighten the collet onto the shaft of your tool. And I noticed that when I was doing that, it didn't come with a wrench. So the first time I tightened it by hand, I could see the tool vibrating out. So I actually had to stop it and go find my own wrench and tighten it down and whatnot. It wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't that, huge of an inconvenience for $10. But it was something that, if it came with if they would have done away with one of these little attachments and threw in a handy little wrench instead of, one of these little attachments, or even two of them for that matter, and they came with a wrench, that would have been awesome. Another thing that I didn't really care for was the fact that if you look around, this has its own container, and this is the only other container you get for these attachments. So, it would have been nice if it came with, like my Kobo, it comes with the attachments, but it comes with a nice little case that you can put everything in. But like I said, it's $10 worth. So for $10, you get what you pay for. So you can't really complain too much about it. Also, another thing I was noticing was that on the ends of some of these tools, let me see if I can get down in here. On the end of these tools right here, some of them require a screw. Yeah, like this one. If you can look, I'm trying to adjust the phone. There you go. If you can look, you can see that's like that's a flathead that you need to tighten it down or loosen it up depending on the attachments that you want to add to this particular piece. And it did not come with a wrench, or not a wrench. It didn't come with a little flathead screwdriver to use, to tighten this down with. So basically, you have to come up with your own. And this is a fairly small one, so some people may not have a flathead that's small enough to fit into there. Some of us do, some of us don't. Luckily for me, I'm a machinist by trade, and I have a lot of various tools over the years. And I have one that will actually fit down in there, a particular flathead that's small enough to fit down in there. So that's what I used. So like I said, this tool is great for little odds and end jobs. I used it a couple days ago and it worked out great. I used it on my vehicle. I was trying to get a bolt through a hole, and the bolt was too big to go through the hole, so I had to basically open the hole up to get the bolt to slide through it, and it took me about 10 minutes of work, but it went through perfectly and it worked great. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you right here. You can see this piece right here. It has a little bit of corrosion and rust. This is a post off a battery cable that was in a vehicle. You see it's all rusted up. I'm going to hit pause here in the video. I'm going to clean this up, and then I'm going to come back and show you what it looks like afterwards. Alright, so as you can see, it is fairly shiny and fairly clean. This is the part that I cleaned. Let's see if I can sit this down, maybe get the camera focused on a little bit better. There we go. As you can see, it's fairly clean. It's it did all right. This particular tool that I actually used on it was not made to clean the rust off of it and clean this gunk and stuff off of it. This is actually a tool that's more used for opening up. I would use it for more like a milling type style purpose. That's what I would use it for. But it actually comes with a wire brush. That's probably what I should have used. But you can see that it actually did fairly well. It did fairly well. It cleaned it up. I used it on my vehicle a couple days ago, like I said, to open up something very similar to this, so I get the bolt through it, and it actually left a very nice pile of shavings underneath it. So those 16,000 RPMs, they really come in handy. Like I said before, this is not a bad tool. I would recommend it for anybody for $10. It's something that is, it's put together fairly well. It's not the best quality in the world, but it will, if you take care of your tools, it'll last you. If you're somebody who just throws your shit around, it probably won't last you. But, this is a fairly good tool, fairly good product. I enjoyed using it, and I expect to get a lot more use out of it. I'm going to also use it to try to clean some of the rust off of some old wrenches that I have, and I'm going to see how that works out. I have some wrenches, a set of wrenches that got some rust all over them. They're fairly old, and I don't really want to get rid of them, so I'm going to try to clean some of the rust off of them, maybe use that wire brush instead of that, and see how it works out for me. But if you're in the market for a nice little cheap Dremel, this is definitely the product for you.